State Weekly Men's Hoops Show. We're a member of the Big Sky Podcast Network, and I'm your host for this one, Colby Peterson. On the show today, we're going to be talking a little bit about some hoops, obviously. So we're going to do a player interview. We got our guy back. We got sophomore forward Dillon Jones to come talk to us a little bit about how the season's going. If we were going to pick our first player interview of the season, we were going to go with DJ. So we're going to talk to DJ a little bit about that. Then we're going to talk about last week's games against Cal Baptist and the game at the D against St. Martin's. Then we'll take a preview looking forward to sort of the rest of this week and the beginning of next games, looking at the matchup against Cal Poly down in SLO, and then the matchup against Utah State up in Logan. So stick around for all that. But before we get into it, want to encourage everybody, please subscribe to the show, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, all good places to find Weber State Weekly. You can also get us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you see some piece of news or something that's interesting, be sure to tag us. We're glad to share that out. And also just hit us up, man. We're glad to chat. You can also go to Patreon, where you got a Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/Weber State Weekly. Support us. Really appreciate our patrons that have made it through thus far, now through football and volleyball season, making our way into hoops, and soon should be looking at some softball. So appreciate our patrons. And if you're interested, go to Weber State Week or patreon.com/Weber State Weekly. Become a patron. Really support those who have done it. So, DJ, let's talk, man. Glad to have you back. I was telling DJ before we hopped on the show, he is the most appeared, I guess, in international soccer. He's the most capped, right? Hey, man, he's the guy that's appeared on the show the most times. Dillon Jones, welcome back, man.
Hey, man, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we appreciate you, man. It's always good to have you on. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about obviously some changes since the last time we've chatted, and a new head coach, man. So Coach Duff, obviously getting the administration after Coach Ray retired, and but not a guy that you necessarily is new to you. I mean, been sitting on the bench for a long time, and so you've known him. And so, DJ, I wanted to ask you a little bit about how has the team changed and kind of progressed now that Coach Duff is not just an assistant coach, but he's the head coach.
I think it's definitely been different with Duff being a head coach instead of an assistant. But the changes that's been made is just anything for the better. I like to say, like, when you dealing with coaches and stuff, these coaches be at these programs for forever. And it's like, it's always a good feeling once you get that first new guy, because it's like new blood, new energy. It's always a different enthusiasm because it's a new challenge. And I think we're recipients of that. And I think we got to be thankful for it because just because, going through that process with them, it's been fun. It's not been perfect. Obviously, the wins haven't came yet. But, it's been good just because we get to see the process, because we know, like, Weber's traditionally good, and we're always going to be good. That's just what the truth is. But it's fun going through the process of, like, figuring it out and, like, going through the lumps kind of. So it's been different, though. Duff's approach, he's been very energetic. He definitely has a high level passion for not just the team, but like Weber and everything. Like, he wants to be here, and I think we can't take that for granted. A lot of like coaches have like a lot of things they got in their back of their mind or places they want to be and stuff, but like he genuinely like loves being here. He's raised his family here. He's been here for 16 years. So, we just thankful to have him. So I think all of that has combined into what he has been as a coach, bringing good energy. Finally got his opportunity. So he's like, he's on us. Like, he wants us to be the best. Like, so yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, I think it's good points, man. Like you said, Coach Duff, he could be in a lot of places and had a lot of opportunities to leave, no doubt. 16 years as an assistant to the winningest coach in not just Weber State history, but also Big Sky Conference history. No doubt he got offers, but he wanted to stay in Ogden, chooses to be at Weber. So grateful to have him, grateful for that commitment. And like you said, I mean, he understands what Weber State basketball is all about, man. He knows because he's been here. He knows what it's about. And so he's working through to get the team to that level.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
DJ, I want to talk to you also about the roster, man. I mean, you guys have a lot of new faces on the roster this year. And I mean, this is just a function of college basketball today. Guys transfer in, maybe play 1 year, like we've seen a number of those guys. And so now we've got some new faces. And so I kind of wanted to talk to you a little bit about how the team is gelling, right? Because anytime, of course, you have a new coach, but also new guys, it's going to be some tooling around and figuring out what guys do best. And so Talk to me a little bit about how you guys been gelling and, what you've been doing to kind of get into that system that Coach Duft has been trying to implement.
I think we gel really well. I think, especially off the court, I think we gel really well, and I think on the court we gel well as well. It's just a process. Like when you come here in the summer and you play your pickup games and you do all of that stuff, like that's a process there, and like you figure it out and stuff. But when the lights are turned on in November, it's like it's honestly just a whole new process. Like those that you can't like you can practice as much as you want. It's never nothing like the real game. And I think we're just going through that process of really learning each other still, and and I think that's what it's been. But I think our team is gelling well. I think like our camaraderie and our like compatibility with each other hasn't been bad at all. Especially being a leader. Like I think we're really together, and I think we really are on the same page when trying to accomplish something. And I think we have the right mindset going as a team right now while we're taking these lumps. We're not just like hanging our heads or thinking that like we're not good or something. Like we just knowing that it's a part of the process. We just being mature about the whole situation. And so yeah, I just think that comes from up top with our coaches. They keep us level headed, but I think as a team we're gelling pretty well. But we just got to take our time, and in order for us to win a championship, obviously we got to gel more. And I think it's going to come only with time. We can't rush it, but it's going to come eventually.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a good point because obviously the out of conference schedule has not gone the way that you all had hoped, but it's all a process. And to be honest, it all leads up to 3 or 4 days in Boise, and that's what matters the most. And so, if you guys are clicking at the right moment, that gelling comes along, especially if you guys start to hit your stride in January and February, heading into March. I mean, out of conference doesn't matter at that point, right?
Right.
Just win
Right.
your conference, win the tournament.
Right.
DJ, I also wanted to ask you, I mean, so like we said, it's been a little bit of a rough start this year because new guys, new coach, that's to be expected, right? That's what happens. And so each week, though, it feels like there's a little bit more progress. Like we'll talk about it in the next segment. That second half of the Cal Baptist game, the shots started to come alive. And especially in the St. Martin's game, it really feels like the team's starting to find its rhythm when it comes to shooting. And so I kind of want to ask you, as a leader on the team, where are you seeing those progressions each week where you feel like we're making some progress each and every week, each and every game? Where do you see that progress happening? And where do you hope it continues?
I think what we're seeing progress is our preparation. I think that our practices are becoming better. I think like the way we're preparing, like when it comes to scouting and other teams and learning like what teams are really about and everything like that. I think that's becoming really really good for us. So I just think that that's the main thing. I think we've been preparing really well these last couple games, and I think that's we're being beneficiaries of it when you look at the outcomes of these games. And like you said, like eventually, like the way it's going to play out in our favor, like for the long run with these shots that's not going in and everything, because like we have really good shooters on the team.
Yeah.
Like I know me specifically, like I haven't even been shooting it that great, but like I'm not, I'm not, I'm not like down in the dumps about it because I know like what I've done to work. I know like the work I've put in. I know everything that I've done to get to this point. So I'm not gonna just hang my head or think that it's the end of the world when they're just not going in right now. If anything in my head, I'm saying if I'm missing them now, I'm making them later. Like if I'm getting my misses now, I know I'm gonna be red hot eventually, and I know my make's gonna come. And honestly, I would love it that way just because of the time of the season we'll be in, hitting conference play. So I just think, like you said, we just gotta stay the course and keep going with it.
Yeah. Dan Hubler here in the comments. I'm missing Do It All DJ. Hey, man, at least you're watching on Facebook, hanging out in the comments. If you have comments, drop them in the chat, man. Glad to shout them out here.
No doubt.
But, I mean, that's great, man. Because like you said, it is a process. And even if the shooting isn't quite there, like you just keep putting up your reps and it'll come, man. Like you guys are too good to miss all season, right? Like there's too much talent on this roster for that to continue. Eventually it's going to start to click. Eventually you're going to start to hit. And when it does, I mean, especially the 3-point shooting, when that comes, it's going to just create so many opportunities in terms of spacing that it's going to fundamentally change the game. And you never want to live and die by that three, right? But it does provide a nice spark to the offense and give variety so that a guy like you who has a great, nose around the basket and always seems to find a way to get a rebound, just more opportunities for you and also easy putbacks, right?
Yeah. No, for sure. And today's basketball, like, I mean, that's just what the game has evolved to. Like, you don't see
Yeah.
too many people like beating up each other, backing each other down towards the rim. Like, that's not what the
It's
game
not the
is anymore.
90s. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely more free flowing, more athletic. It's more skilled than ever before. Like, and shooting's at an all time high. So like, we're just doing what we're taught. So
DJ, I want to talk a little bit about you specifically, man. I mean, well, before I do that, I want to talk a little bit about more about that chemistry that you talked about. I mean, in spite of, like you said, the Dubs aren't coming quite yet, but all good. It seems like you guys have great chemistry in the locker room, man. That like even though you guys are working through it, I mean, guys talk to each other on the court. It seems like, in the stuff that gets posted on social media, you guys are hanging out that like you genuinely like playing basketball together and that's going to pay dividends as the season progresses. Talk to us a little bit about that, man. Like, how did you guys develop that chemistry so quickly? Because, like we said, it is a lot of new faces, but also some guys who have been around the program for a little bit, like yourself. And so, how have you guys been able to develop that chemistry and stay resilient in the face of a little bit of adversity?
I think when you like bringing in a bunch of new guys, I feel like it's way easier to build team camaraderie, kind of, because there's not like this head honcho sitting here and like, oh, this is how we're gonna do things. It's like not none of that. Like everyone kind of has to like learn each other again. It's kind of like you starting from the ground, and it's like organic relationships. Like, it's just not like it's 10 people here and then two people come in and then we're just telling them like exactly what to do, and like they're not able to even be themselves. I think that's one thing you see us being beneficiaries of, is just being able to having new players but turning that into a positive and just like letting everybody showcase themselves or like be themselves, just like not just like boxing them in. That's what I like to call it. Like, we don't put anybody in a box. We just let them be themselves. So I think a lot of that is coming from us having a lot of new players on the team. Because if we have a lot of new guys, it's like you say, like it's like a whole nother process of learning people. It's not just like a tone set on like how the things are just going to be. So I think that's what it is.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, starting from scratch. I mean, a lot of people might see that as a negative, as a process of starting over. But in that starting over, it can actually help things to grow faster because everybody's new, everybody's coming in, and it can just go from there. There's nothing, in the past that you have to necessarily deal with. It's just we're going to go from square one.
Right. For sure.
DJ, I did want to talk about you now, man. I mean, NIL is a new force in college athletics, and it's here to stay. And I feel like of all the student athletes at Weber State, you've done one of the best jobs at working with local businesses to promote them. Talk to us a little bit about how you've navigated those waters, man, and built those relationships with business owners and community members to kind of give them a voice and be kind of their champion on social media and help Wildcat fans to know about some of the cool stuff that they're doing.
Yeah, I think with NIL, I think I've been just grateful for any opportunity that I've been dealing with. But I think for the main thing, like I think when it comes to people that I want to work with, like I think I want to work with people that kind of have not just only the same vision as me, but kind of like the same like motivation to like try to like get better at things and just try to like that's why I like doing local businesses, because like local businesses, it's not just about like it's not just like a corporate chain where like they just got money flowing in and it's like they're just they're sitting on a bunch of money. It's really like relationships matter more. Different things like are different priorities. So that's why I like doing the things what I'm doing right now at my local businesses. But at the same time, I just think that like I said, just being able to work with people that have the same mindset, the same vision has been good. And I think that um like I'm just grateful, honestly, because it's crazy. Like the landscape of basketball was so different. Like in it's just I don't know. I've just been grateful for the opportunities and stuff that I've been doing. So yeah, it's been good.
Nah, man, and I like the local angle. Like you said, finding those businesses that align with your values as a player, but then also, using your position in the community to kind of help and shout them out and give them a chance to let Wildcat fans know about the good stuff that's happening. You know, there were some posts this week that you had made on your Instagram account. I was like, oh man, when I come to Ogden, I'm going to go to those businesses because they got some stuff that I want. So just shouting
Right.
out those kinds of cool things that are happening in the community that folks like me who are maybe not as connected because they live far away or whatever, just helping us know about what's going on, man. Like, I appreciate that
And
willingness to get in there.
the main thing is like when I talk to them, like I just let them know like I want to help y'all as much as I want y'all to help me, kind of. Like I don't just want to just be like sitting back and like collecting the check, kind of. Like I just rather like I want to help, because because I know how it is, like just to be able to have a face in the community, like you say, like I just know how valuable, or I think I know how valuable I am here. So just being able to, like you say, like I make a post and then when you come here, you're gonna be able to come. Like that's what it's about. And I just find joy in that. So
Yeah. Well, I like it, man. I mean, and I think that that's one of the nice things about NIL is, there's a lot of talk online about, oh, this is going to ruin college athletics. But I think the opposite, where like stuff like this can now happen. Businesses can work with you guys and shout out some really cool stuff. There's a benefit to you guys, obviously, but there's also a benefit to them. Build some of those community ties in a place like Ogden, where previously maybe those didn't happen as much. So I'm for it,
mhm.
man. I like the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Another thing I want to talk about, some other work that you're doing off the court, man, is you've been really a part of leadership with the SAAC, which is like the student athletes leadership group on campus. What drove you to get more involved there, man? And kind of what did you find that has been the most rewarding about your involvement with that group?
I think that has been like a good experience just to like be able to say that like you have a voice. I think that sometimes in like athletics, especially as being athletes, especially before NIL and all of that, like we were kind of just like you just feel like you're just like going to practice and like you're doing whatever like you're being asked, and like I don't know, you just get caught up in just the free flowing process of just college athletics. And being in SAC, it just helps me, like it makes me feel like I have a voice and like you have an opinion, and like you're able to not only do that, you can communicate with different athletes because there's like a lot of athletes from each team there. I think it's been good, man. Just like the things we're doing, like we do things in community service, like it helps that, like it brings me joy in that way. We do things obviously on social media. It's just been a lot of different avenues that's been created throughout SAC that we're like, as not just me, but like as other athletes, we're taking advantage of just because we just want to, like I call it like filling my cup, like kind of just like if I'm gonna be good on the court, I know it's not just because of the court. Like it's going to be because of the things I do outside. Whether that's I don't know, like going to speak to some kids or something, or just helping SAC vote on something. It's just something that I like to call like just filling my cup. That's what I find joy in doing with SAC. So it's been good though. It's been good. I've been in it for 3 years and I like it.
Yeah, and I mean, and in addition to that, before we moved to Nashville, you guys would show up to other sports, be
Yeah.
out there to support volleyball or show up to softball or whatever. You guys are out there and they're showing up for you. I love that symbiosis between the programs, right? Where it's like everyone's a Wildcat. We're all here to support each other and get loud, and everybody wants to win championships.
Yeah. One of the biggest things I've took from it as well is like I know people around here be trying to call, like my teammates joke and try to call me like big time and stuff, and I don't think I am.
I mean,
But
I mean,
so they just joke with that stuff, and I like to do stuff like sack because like people like might just be like I don't feel like doing this, but like I use it as like a leadership tool or somehow to be like lead by example and just showing people like it's nothing to just go and give your time to like this easy cause, just to be able to say you're helping and like doing things like that. Like I like to do it because I don't want to feel like I'm above something, like I did it my freshman year when nobody definitely didn't know me, and like I know I've kind of like gained more of a name now, and I'd like to still do those things just because I think that like I said, like my teammates now, like the freshmen, they can't say that I'm just at home and they'll never see me and doing all like like I like to show my face because like I don't want people to feel like they're too big for anything. So if I feel like that, I gotta like show that example. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Dan Hubler here in the comments. Always at the women's basketball games when they're in town. Fun to hear the commentary and the games in real time. I mean, obviously, you guys playing the same game, so you know a lot about what's going on.
Nah, yeah, for sure. Dan be right there with me.
Yeah, he's in the crowd. I think Dan's got floor seats, man.
Yeah,
He's next level.
for sure.
Last thing I want to ask you about, DJ, is about Formula Zero, which is Dame's camp that he put together. I think this was the first season of Formula Zero this summer, and you were one of the student athletes from across the country that got selected to go and get some training and some. I think it was more than just like physical stuff; it was also mental stuff. Mindset and all of that kind of stuff that Dame and Coach Beckner were kind of helping you guys through. So I wanted you to talk a little bit about that, man. Like, what did you learn? Like, what were some of the things that you took away from Formula Zero that you were able to bring back to Ogden and kind of use yourself, but also, maybe help your teammates as well?
Yeah, Formula Zero was definitely a an experience that like I'm super grateful for, but like you can't take it lightly because like not so many people. Like it was only 20 college kids there, like and
Yeah.
I got in by the grace of God. So I think I told people like from my time at the camp, like the basket on the court obviously was good. Like we got better, like good on the court work, obviously. But and I don't think it's a shot, but like I think that I learned more off the court than on the court. And I think people that's around like Dame and stuff, like they would probably like a lot of people at camp would probably say the same thing. Like the stuff that you learn, basically like he said, like in his interviews, like I'm not the fastest, I'm not the tallest, like I'm not the most talented, but like there's not many people like more mentally sharper than me, and like being there, you like was able to see like it was kind of like it was crazy like to see like how like sharp he is. Like he's I mean, it's unbelievable. Like he's a mental like warrior. I like to call him. Like he just nothing can phase him. And like when you hear him talk, like you hear why. Like the way his mind like ticks. Like it was crazy. So I told people I learned a lot more off the court than I did on the court. Whether that was you know Bible lessons with Courtney Ingram or like learning getting mental talks from Trent Shelton or just having scout talks with Matt Babcock. Like I learned a lot off the court, and it helped me with my mindset. Like the stuff that I learned, like the mental tools and tips that I learned to like really help me go. I think like I can't like take that for granted, like because I know a lot of people don't have them same tips, and I share them with my teammates. Like it was so many things I learned like off the court. That's what I love to tell people. Like I learned so much off the court than on the court at that camp. Like it was good like in the on the court wise, like I was able to go against a lot of these players that they claim are like so good. I was able to like actually like be on the court with them, feel them, touch them, see how I stack up against them. So I was able to gain confidence in that because I felt like I played to a level where at least I felt like I belonged there. I wasn't out there and like oh maybe I shouldn't be here. Like I actually felt like I played to a level that shows that I can play at with all of those guys. So that was good on the court, but off the court, man, I just learned so much. So yeah,
Yeah. And I think that what you is true. I mean, if you've been a Wildcat fan for any period of time, or you've heard stories about Dame and his time at Weber State, like when he had the injury and he was out for the season, spent his time mentally, shooting free throws or like doing the things that he could to get himself better, even though he was hurt. And then when he came back with a vengeance, right? And so just those kinds of things, sharing with you guys, got to be worth their weight in gold, man.
no doubt, no doubt.
Yeah.
And if you look like any player that was there, like they're probably having their best year right now. Just from like all the stuff they learned. Like I haven't even like checked up on like a bunch of guys, but I can only imagine like because I see some of the guys now like Chris Murray, Caleb Love, like they're having like really good years, and I can only think like because we still do monthly Zoom calls now with Formula Zero. Like it wasn't just a camp. Like we still do monthly Zoom calls with all the coaches. We still have dialogue with them. Like we still like it's actually like they call it a community, and it actually is. You know, we still like get texts from everybody. So so we're still in tap, and we keep those emotions flowing like until we able to go again to camp next year. And like I will bet if you go look at seeing everybody at the camp, they're having their best year.
Yeah, I mean, I would say probably you included. I mean, your numbers so far this season have been really good, leading the clubhouse, showing up in a lot of big games. A preseason, all Big Sky team member. And only 6 guys get picked to that team. Dillon Jones from Weber State was one.
Right, for sure, man.
Well, DJ, want to thank you so much for taking some time to chat with us, man. Talk a little bit about, what's been going on in the clubhouse this season. Also, kind of some of the cool things that you've been able to do in the past year since we talked to you last. Wish you the best of luck. Got some tough couple of matchups coming on this week, and then conference play starts, man. So wish you the best of luck. We'll be cheering you on. I'll probably be in the building for some of those, man. But loud and always go Wildcats, man. Thank you, Dillon Jones.
No, for sure. Appreciate you.
We'll see you, man.
Yep.
Want to thank Dillon Jones one more time for chatting with us here on Weber State Weekly. We know the student athletes are always really busy. They always, they're trying to train. I mean, obviously, he's in the middle of the season right now for DJ. Plus, he's a student, man. He's taking classes, doing the stuff, and so taking a little bit of time to hang out with us and chat. Always good. Always appreciate it. And so, hope you folks enjoyed it as well. But now let's take a look at last week's matchups before we turn our attention to the future. We'll talk a little bit about the game against Cal Baptist, and then we'll talk about the game against St. Martin's in Ogden on Saturday. So starting out with the game against Cal Baptist, I felt like this was a game of 2 halves, right? Where the first half was a tough shooting half. We know that there are talented shooters, but they just weren't able to get it going in this one. And so that first half, paper, you're like, oh man, like this must not have gone well at all. But I think that there's more to play, and I honestly don't think that it was necessarily anything that Cal Baptist was doing. I think it was just a rough shooting night for the Wildcats overall. Because when I'm watching, the looks are good, they're just not going in. And like we just talked about with DJ, when you're going through that process and you're getting comfortable and you're trying to get into that rhythm, sometimes you'll have games like that. There have been a number already this season, and so they're working through. It's just a process, shoot or shoot. And so it felt like that was where they were struggling. The offense really didn't get going until the second half. But that first half, only 15 points, and Cal Baptist, they scored 31. So it wasn't like an overwhelming number, but just a slow shooting half for the Wildcats. They go just 7 of 24 from the floor, 1 of 9 from 3, which you knew wasn't going to hold. And they didn't get a single free throw in that, which is uncharacteristic of the Wildcat team, because they've been not only a good team at drawing those fouls, but also a good free throw shooting team, one of the best in the country. If you watched the broadcast from Saturday and heard the crew talk a little bit about that, a team that shoots the free throw well, which I think just shows that this team takes this seriously, that they control their controllables, which is, hey man, you put the ball in the hoop when you're asked to. So obviously the first half a little bit rough, but second half comes out and things are changed. Wildcats end up shooting 42.31% in the second half. They go 11 of 26 from the floor. They shoot 4 of 12 from 3. That's 33%. That's respectable. And they get 12 free throws, and they go 11 of 12 from the line. It's a fundamental difference from the first half where things weren't going their way. And so I look at this game and I'm like, man, yes, the Wildcats did lose 64-52, but marked progress from the first half to the second half. And one thing I'm also noticing is that the bench is really showing up for the Wildcats. They got 15 bench points in this one. And some guys had off shooting nights. I think Zaire Porter has had a really good season thus far. He had a rough night, 0 for 6 when he was 0 for 3 from the 3-point line, but he was 6 of 6 from the free throw line. So you look at that and say, yeah, shots weren't necessarily going in, or he's getting fouled on some of those. But when he has his opportunities from the free throw line, he's making them, right? So it just shows his maturity now, because I think Zaire, now he's been with the Wildcats. This will be his 3rd season in a Wildcat uniform, obviously getting the extra season with the COVID year. But Porter continues to make progress, I think. And also, I think he's more healthy than he was last season. I think last year, his health kind of dogged him. It was a little bit tough on him. But overall, it feels like he's healthy and he's contributing. And so, like we just talked about with DJ, it's a process. Going to go through some of this stuff. Gonna do our best to work through and gel. And the shot. Another thing that I think is really a nice thing to point out is that KJ Cunningham getting a lot more playing time this season, which is something I like to see because the Hoop King has been at Weber State now for a while. Has played behind some really good guards, and now he's getting his opportunity to play. Had 22 minutes in this one. Ended up going 1 of 4 from the free throw line, from the field. But overall, getting those minutes, getting his opportunity to really play, and it's something you love to see as a guy who's paid his dues at Weber State. Obviously probably had plenty of opportunity to transfer out, but chose to stay in Ogden, continue to play for Coach Ray and now for Coach Duft, and getting his opportunity with 22 minutes in this one and more in the next one. So love to see it. Dillon Jones in this one, I mean, he's the MVP. 36 minutes, but he scores 22 points in those 36 minutes, goes 5 of 6 from the free throw line, 3 of 5 from the three-point line, and 7 of 13 from the field. Also 5 rebounds to go with that, and 4 steals. I mean, if Dillon Jones is on the court, he's going to get steals. Far and away the most steals by the Wildcats on the night. Dillon has 4. Nobody else has more than 1. So just active hands continue to be there, create those turnovers, and give them opportunities. It feels like, especially in transition, because it feels like with the Wildcats, the offense not working the way that they had hoped. When they can create those transition opportunities, it gives them a chance to get some confidence and obviously get some points on the board because it's much easier to score in transition. And I think that this Wildcat transition game is pretty good. There are guys who understand how to share the ball, and they do it well. And when the game is, quick and they're running back to get their opportunity. So nice to see 4 steals. I think we'll continue to see it. It's been a hallmark of DJ's game. That's why we call him Do It All DJ. It's one of these reasons. And so 22 points in this one, and a nice outing overall. So, I could talk about more. The one thing that I was going to say is, it really in this game, because Cal Baptist is a good team, but this was a winnable game for the Wildcats. The difference was Scotty Washington on the Cal Baptist side. He comes off the bench, and he ends up in 17 minutes. He scores 18 points, goes 7 of 10 from the floor, 3 of 4 from three-point land. I mean, a guy who doesn't normally, obviously, average 18 points coming off the bench, but just he got hot. And that was the difference for Cal Baptist, because nobody else, none of the other Lancers were in double digits, just Scotty Washington. So had himself a game. This was the first matchup ever between the Wildcats and the Cal Baptist Lancers. So had himself a career game in the first matchup between these two teams. And they come away with the W. But overall, I like the defensive performance because, like I said, I look at this and I go, okay, nobody else scores in double digits. And you can say, well, yeah, but you have enough 6s and 4s, Colby, to add it up. Yeah, sure. But 64 points? I mean, Cal Baptist didn't shoot the lights out in the first half either. They just scored well enough. They shot 39% from the field. They shot 16% from 3. And so it's 2 of 12. It's not like they're ripping through the nets. Second half, obviously, their offense picks up a little bit. They go 13 of 26, and they shoot 5 of 12 from three-point land. And obviously some of that contribution coming from Scotty Washington going 3 of 4, but they weren't. I don't know. It just wasn't like, I give the Wildcat defense credit because they made it difficult. The challenge was just so many guys came in and made small contributions. Couple guys made a bucket. Couple guys made a bucket. And all of those couple of guys made a bucket adds up to 62 and gives the Lancers the win. 64. My bad. It adds up to 64, and that's what it is. But overall, I like the defensive performance from the Wildcats. They did get out rebounded, but I mean, just a matter of position. We've talked about how size could be a problem in the front court for the Wildcats this season, but it's a lot of young guys in the front court. They're learning, and so there may be tough games like there was against Tanner Christensen, a week or and a half ago or so. Those games will happen, but it's a learning process. The front court is really, really young, and so that's what's going to happen. You're going to have games like that, but every time they do, they're going to learn. So that's Cal Baptist. So now let's talk a little bit about St. Martin's, because the Wildcats were back at the Purple Palace, and you love to see it. Nice having them back home. And they faced D2 St. Martin's, who came into this one, I think they had only lost one game. So a quality D2 team coming to the Purple Palace to face the Wildcats, who having a hard time finding W's right now. It's a learning process. And this one was, I think, a good game where they kind of broke things open. So pulling up the stat sheet on this one against the St. Martins. Oh, actually, I should have looked up what their mascot was. Oh, man, my bad, guys. I should have looked up what St. Martin's mascot was. Some kind of Trojan, it looks like. But anyway, so in this one, Wildcat, I really felt like the offense really started cooking this one. And I think that's a good sign because now what we've seen, a little bit of a tough shooting first half, but better than what we saw against the Lancers, and then a great second half shooting the ball. So in this one, come out a little bit slow, but the Wildcats come in. Oh, sorry, my bad. Wildcats shoot 42% in the first half, 52% from three. So it's like now we've seen a half of basketball against Cal Baptist where they shot well, and we've seen two halves of basketball where they've shot well. And so I think it's just a good. Okay, I got a note right here. They are the Saints, the St. Martin Saints. So appreciate the assist there from Dan Hubler. Appreciate you, man. But we've now seen three halves in a row where the Wildcat offense has really started to produce. And I think that that's a good sign as we go into, the next couple of weeks are going to be tough, folks. There are some tough teams coming up on this out-of-conference schedule as the Wildcats wrap it up and get ready to start conference play after Christmas. But if we're looking at trends, like I said, now we've seen three halves in a row where the Wildcats have shot 40% or better from the field. So in the first half, Wildcats shoot 42%, go 12 of 28 from the field. They shoot 52% from three, which I think is the thing that they were sort of waiting for to break through. This was the game where the breakthrough came. 9 of 17 from the field, from three-point land in the first half. Then the second half, they go 3 of 7, shoot 42%, and they shoot 59% in the second half from the field. So that puts them overall 50% and 50% from three for the night. You love to see it because I think with shooting, it's all about rhythm and it's all about confidence. And I think a game like this gives the Wildcats a lot of confidence going into the next couple of weeks where you're going to face a tough Cal Poly team, who we'll talk about in just a minute. You're going to face a tough Utah State team who is now undefeated. And Utah State has played some tough teams already. I think we'll talk about it in a second, but I think their average margin of victory is like 13.5. So nearly every team that they've beaten by double digits, and they've played some quality squads. But a game like this where the Wildcats can get that offense going and gain some confidence, I think it's going to pay dividends, especially as they work through these final 2 weeks of out of conference, plus adding the beginning of the conference schedule, which has Northern Colorado coming to Ogden right out of the gate. And if you haven't been following the Big Sky standings, Northern Colorado, a quality team again this year. They played in the Big Sky Conference tournament final last year. Did not play the Wildcats, or did not play the Bobcats as well as Weber State did in the semifinal. Opinion was the real conference championship. Bears got blown out in the championship game. It wasn't close, but still a quality squad, returning quite a few guys, including Dalen Kuntz, who was a great player for them last year, a scoring machine, returning to Greeley to continue that trend. And they've been good, but we'll talk about them in a little while. But overall, going back to the St. Martin Saints game, I think we like to see this confidence in the offense, and especially I think from Steve Verplanken and J.R. Ballard. Now, Steve Verplanken has had quite a few good games. J.R. Ballard has had, I think, a rough start. We know he's a good shooter. Had a really nice career at Fresno State before coming to Ogden, and this was a great night for him to break out. J.R. ends up going in this one. He doesn't start the game, but he comes off the bench, gets 22 minutes, goes 3 of 4 from three, 5 of 6 from the field, chips in a couple of rebounds, a couple of assists, a couple of free throws. Just like all of those things added together, boom, 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 boom. Just overall puts together a nice night, 15 points off the bench in 22 minutes. It's that kind of performance I think that the Wildcats have been looking for, because if you can get 2, 3, maybe 4 guys in double figures, you're going to be in any game against almost anybody. So Steve Verplanken has been doing that. Led all scorers with 21 points, and this one was 6 of 11 from the field, 5 of 7 from three. So Steve absolutely shooting the lights out in this one. Goes 4 of 4 from the free throw line. Did a great job, and I think that that's the kind of thing you want to see. So Steve now starting to cook. DJ has been cooking the entire season, has consistently been a contributor on both sides of the floor, not just rebounding, but also scoring. And like we talked about earlier, causing turnovers, which DJ has always been really good at. And then we see the contributions of J.R. Ballard coming in off the bench. I think it's a good recipe, especially for the team's confidence going into these final couple of weeks. Now, though, was that turnovers have been a little bit of an issue. And I was thinking about this and I was like, okay, turnovers, what does this mean for this Wildcats team? And I think the more I think about it and the more basketball I watch with them, I think it's mostly a function of the team getting to know each other. Like DJ said, new faces, everybody's still learning each other's game, learning where they're going to be, where their spots are supposed to be, all of those kinds of things. And so I think that it's just a function of that. So if you look at the St. Martin's game, turnovers in this one weren't necessarily. I mean, 17 is a high number for them. I think in the previous game against Cal Baptist, they had 12, so 17 turnovers. But in this case, they had the ability to kind of play a little bit more loosely with the ball because they were leading by so many points throughout. And so, the Wildcats end up winning this one 82-58. So an opportunity to kind of try some things. When you're trying things, obviously you're going to make mistakes. So 17 turnovers, which I wouldn't be super worried about. But over time, you would hope to see that number kind of trend downward as the team gets more confident, gets more chemistry on the court, playing with each other. We talked about how they already have good chemistry off the court. It seems like it's a group of guys that like each other. They like to play with each other. It's just a matter of learning each other's game. And if they can continue that trend, bring the turnovers down, get the offense going, the Wildcats are going to be ready for Boise when the time comes. So that's kind of the last week's game, a split, obviously, losing to Cal Baptist on the road, but then getting the win against the St. Martin's Saints at the Purple Palace. If you were able to go, hope you enjoyed the game. But yeah, can't ask for more than that right now. And so split is good. So now let's take our attention to this week's coming up games. A couple of games on the road, one down at Cal Poly to Dyson Kohler's former team, and then also taking the trip up to Logan this year. Utah State came to Ogden last year, so it's now our turn to go to Logan, and so they'll face Utah State in the Smith Spectrum on Monday next week, which we should say is going to have an effect on our show because we're not going to broadcast during the game, right? And so, and then after that, the women play on Tuesday against the University of Utah at the Purple Palace, which is a game that you all should go to. I will be in the building for that game that night. And so if you want to come hang out, hey, let's go see the Utes take on the Wildcats at the Purple Palace. I think it's a good get. It's a nice schedule for Coach V and her team. And so let's get out there and support them. But because of that, the men playing on Monday night, the women playing on Tuesday night, we probably won't do our men's hoops and women's hoops shows until Wednesday night next week. And so just kind of for you folks to be aware, if you're listening, that the show will be a little bit delayed next week, but it's because of the out-of-conference schedule and just kind of the way things shake out, because we don't want to be broadcasting during the game. We want you to go to the game, or we want you to watch the game. We don't want to listen to us talk about the game. So just a little preview for the upcoming schedule. But let's talk a little bit about Cal Poly. The engine of Cal Poly's offense is their senior forward slash center, Alimami Koroma. And this guy has really made an impact for them. He's averaging 13.1 points per game. But man, he's had some really good games against Cal Baptist and Idaho, a Cal Baptist team that we just saw. And so he played really well. And I think that for him, size is the key piece, because some of his stats, you look at it, it's like, man, he's doing a really great job of scoring. And also he shoots free throws really, really well. So that tells you he's getting fouled. He's getting to the line. And that's where he likes to make a lot of his money. We talked about some of the front court issues. I think this is a good challenge for this young front court to deal with. He's a senior this year. And so that's going to play a role. And I think this is a good challenge for them to play a quality opponent and just see how they can grow. And then I think also defending the paint is probably going to be a key, because if you can keep him off of his spots away from the basket, probably going to have a good opportunity to slow down this Cal Poly offense and give yourselves a chance. Also want to talk a little bit about the Mustang backcourt. It's led by senior guard Trevin Taylor and junior guard Brantley Stevenson, who's now he's kind of made a name for himself, and now he's kind of picking things up and has started, I think, the last 4 games for them. And so Stevenson, let's start with Trevin. Let's start with Brantley Stevenson, who's the junior. His shooting numbers are pretty crazy. So right now he's shooting 50% from 2, 40% from 3. So this is a guy I think that they're going to have to provide some extra attention to on the perimeter, because obviously he can shoot the 3. So you have to respect that. He's shooting it at a high clip at 40%, but then also he can get to the basket. So probably going to be a tough player, but it is a guard-driven league, and so I think this is a good challenge for the guards, because these are the kind of guards that you're going to see in the Big Sky Conference. We always have great guards, and this season will be no exception. So having a challenge like these two, both Taylor and Stevenson, should be a nice preview for what's to come. Talking a little bit about Taylor, he's a player who he leads the team in rebounding. And so not only is he a guard, I think he's 6'6" as a guard, but he leads the team in rebounding. That kind of tells you what he likes to do, a guy who likes to charge in. I mean, because they have Alimami Korama, who is, I mean, not a small player, folks. but Trevin Taylor is the one leading the team in rebounds. So it just kind of shows how active I think that this team is on offense and crashing the board. So something to watch for against Cal Poly in the coming week. But yeah, I think that this game is an interesting one, because Cal Poly is a team that I don't think we see very often. We obviously see them fairly often in football, but when it comes to basketball, not as much. I think it's a good opponent because they're a good team. They always seem to have a good team. And so it's the kind of opponent that I think the Wildcats like to schedule, because it is a challenge. And we'll just kind of see how it happens and how things go. Then following that game, so Cal Poly is going to be on Friday, December 16th, but then Monday, December 19th, the Wildcats face Utah State. Utah State right now is a different kind of animal. Utah State's coming in undefeated, I think 8-0, and they have some quality wins under their belt. So I did a little bit of digging, like, all right, what is Utah State about this season? Because they had some key contributors last year who have moved on. And this year, it's all about junior guard Stephen Ashworth. I mean, this guy, he's going to command a lot of attention, I think, defensively, because he leads the team in scoring with 18.6 points a game, but he does a really good job of passing the ball around to his teammates. He averages 4.7 assists a game. So he's averaging almost 5 assists a game. So he's a guy who I think probably draws a lot of the attention because he likes to get in the paint, and the defense will collapse on him. And then he's a person who likes to kick out, provide, guys who are moving off ball. So I think it's something that the Wildcat defense is going to have to watch for. I haven't watched the Aggies play yet this season, but based on some of the numbers, something you're going to have to watch for. So I wondered, is it the kind of thing where you double him and dare somebody else to beat you? Because he also shoots 55% from 3 and 55% from 2 and 54% from 3. So not only is he a dead eye, he's a great shooter from three-point line. He also shoots a high percentage inside the arc and can facilitate. Just a difficult guard, I think, to deal with. Another player to keep your mind or on your eyes on is senior forward Taylor Funk. This guy is, I think, he's more in the model of what the modern big in the NBA is. I mean, he's a guy who can spread the floor. He shoots 46% from 3, but he also likes to crash the glass. He averages 8.8 boards a game. Combine that with his size and Ashworth's shooting, I think it might be difficult to stop both at the same time. Like we said, if you can let one guy go off but stop everybody else, you probably have a chance of winning. But they have a couple of guys here who can really, really cause problems. And so it's going to be a tall order, I think. And I don't know what the secret sauce is to slowing their offense down, because that is the name of the game for Utah State. They have an absolutely explosive offense. That's what they like to do. Defensively, I'd say they're average to above average. They allow 72.5 points a game. So it's kind of high. They're what they're giving up, but they average 86 points themselves. And they've played quality opponents this season so far. So it's not like they're just beating up on bad D2 schools or something like that. They're a team that can shoot the ball really well. Their offense really hums. And so they haven't scored less than 75 in a game all season, and they're undefeated. So in order to give themselves a chance, I think the Wildcats really need to make sure that the offense keeps up, because that's what Utah State likes to do. They like to just bury you in points. And if they're giving up an average of 72.5, I think there will be opportunities for the Wildcats to gain some confidence. But the game is at Smith Spectrum. It's a difficult place to play basketball. And so we'll see how it shakes out. But if the Wildcats are going to be in this, they're going to need to do their best to create possessions for themselves. And so that means crashing the boards. But then also They're going to need to run the offense fairly well, and that probably means a good 3-point shooting night from the likes of Steve Verplanken, Dillon Jones, J.R. Ballard, and probably Zaire Porter as well. If those 4 guys can get going behind the arc, it's really going to create, I think, a lot of space for the offense. But we'll have to see because, I mean, we're asking 4 guys to have good shooting nights. Could be tough, but the defense from Utah State, giving up 72.5 points a game leads me to believe that there will be opportunities offensively for the Wildcats, which will be critical to keeping them in this game. So that's Utah State. Let's look at the upcoming schedule, talk a little bit about when these games will be. So Friday, December 16th, the game will be at Cal Poly down in San Luis Obispo. That will be 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. You can get that game on ESPN Plus or 103.1 The Wave. Then Monday, December 19th, Wildcats take the trip up to Logan, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. You can get tickets at UtahStateAggies.com, or you can watch it on the Mountain West Network, which is free on the internet. You can get it there. It's how if you folks remember the Utah State football game earlier in the season, that's how we watched that. If you weren't able to go to Logan, or Steve Klauke will be on the radio, 103.1 The Wave. Then Thursday, December 22nd, Wildcats take the trip down to Provo to face BYU, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Tickets at tickets.byu.edu. Game will also be on BYU TV, which is a free app that you can download to watch that game. And of course, Steve Klauke would be on the radio, 103.1 The Wave. BYU is a team who has faltered a little bit this season. They're still a good team. A Mark Pope coached team is always going to be good. But if the Wildcats are going to have a chance to steal one, this might be the year down in Provo, because the Wildcats have not looked their dominant selves, but it's going to take a lot. The Wildcats are going to have to figure some things out really, really quickly in order to be competitive. So we'll see how it goes. Then the Christmas break, and the Wildcats return Thursday, December 29th with a homestand. 3 home games in a row. First will be against Northern Colorado, like I said, the open conference play, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Get your tickets, WeaverStateSports.com. ESPN Plus if you're out of market. Like I won't be, because I'm going to be in Utah. And you can get it on the radio, 103.1 The Wave. Then Saturday, December 31st, against Northern Arizona. This is an afternoon game, 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Same, tickets at WeaverStateSports.com, ESPN Plus, 103.1 The Wave. And then the following week, just one game, Saturday, January 7th, the Stripes come down to Ogden to face the Wildcats. Idaho State, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Tickets at WeaverStateSports.com, ESPN Plus, or 103.1 The Wave. So that's the upcoming schedule for the Wildcats. A lot of tough games, like we said, Cal Poly, Utah State, and BYU, all tough opponents to close out the non-conference schedule, but good tests going into the conference schedule, starting off with a tough Northern Colorado team, but very beatable Northern Arizona and Idaho State teams if they can get their offense running. So we'll wrap up the show. Email us, WeaverStateWeekly@gmail.com, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Patreon, and then the blog. We're working on we just wanted to gather some of our panel's thoughts on the Jay Hill move down to BYU. Remember some of our favorite moments of the Jay Hill era. So we'll be putting those together and be posting them to the blog this week. But really appreciate Coach Hill's time at Weber State. Always gonna remember the Jay Hill era fondly, but we'll be preparing that for you folks coming to the blog soon. Flying this one solo, so I'll wrap it up like I always do, man. Weber State, Weber State.